looking for some gold at the end of my rainbow. Yes, and someday I will find her on a Parkway Blue Blinder. On a Parkway Blue Blinder. Someday I will find her. Yes, and someday I will find her on a Parkway Blue Blinder. On a Parkway Blue Blinder. On a Parkway. On a Parkway, on an autumn day. Yes, and leaves fall like confetti in a New York parade. On the Parkway, on an autumn day. Yes, and leaves fall like confetti in a New York parade.
And welcome everybody to Scenic City Sports on this Sunday evening. And you can tell as we make our way in, you can hear the guys arguing off camera. We were just discussing what we are going to talk about a lot on the show tonight, and that is basically the thing that we challenged you guys to a couple of weeks ago, or a week and a half or so ago, and that was to pick out your 4 most iconic. Is that how iconic?
Well, we said
sports,
the Mount Rushmore.
The Mount Rushmore of Chattanooga.
Your
Sports
personal
personality.
Yes.
And that includes
What?
media, coaches, athletes,
Yeah, it does.
everything. Anybody that was ever associated with anything to do with sports in Chattanooga. But before we get into that,
Yes.
You gonna tell us about Gordon Lee gonna win the state championship?
well, I hope, obviously, I hope they win the state championship. I mean, that's going to be a really tough test against Pepperell, who have, I think, 7 guys hitting over 350.
And what is what?
But I think Gordon Lee has better pitching and deeper pitching.
And Gordon Lee's been ranked number 1 practically all year, right, Scott?
Oh yeah,
Where's Pepperell been ranked?
5 to 7,
5 to 7.
and they were the number 3 seed coming into the playoffs.
And so why is that? A lot of extra losses than.
They are 31-8. Pepperell is, and I looked up their losses. They haven't lost to a bad team yet. And like Gordon Lee, they've had 2 playoff series out of the 4 they've played so far where they lost a game and they've had to come back. But their losses have been like to, Model, who was like second for a long time. I think Bremen beat them twice, both times by like 1 or 2 runs. They lost to Bowden, they lost to.
Did they play a lot of bigger schools and get some losses that way?
No, I mean they most of the teams they played, I think, are around their own different classification. Maybe a class higher or something like that. But they play a lot of region games too, so there wasn't that many non-region games. But they are a very solid club, and if you don't know, Pepperell's won 8 state baseball titles, but they haven't won one in a long time.
And Gordon Lee's won how many?
Gordon Lee's won 4.
4. Okay, tell me those years.
But this is the
concerned.
7th time in the last 8 seasons that Gordon Lee has played in Class A, public school, or Division I, however you want to classify that. 7th time in last 8 times that they've played for a state championship. They played for it in 2013 and 2014, lost down at Charlton County, both times in Game 3 by 1 run. They played, then they went to Double-A for 2 years. They come back, they play for a state championship in 2017 They lose to a really good Schley County team, but then Gordon Lee comes back. 2018, 2019, they win back-to-back titles. 2020, COVID year, wipes it out. 21, they get back to the state finals. They lose to a good Metter team. I think that was a 3-game series. Then I think they ended up second or third round the following year, and they lost to Metter again.
Oh.
And then they jumped up to Class 3A for 2 years.
07, that team got, I thought they was in the finals.
Final Four.
Final Four, okay.
Yeah.
They
They never got to the finals under Greg Payne. They got to the Final Four once. I think just once. At one time it was against Calvary Day down in Savannah because I was actually at that series.
And let's divide that up just a little bit so that people understand that was in a day when the privates and the publics.
Yeah,
were
Class A
together.
was Class A. There wasn't public private. There wasn't Division I, Division II, or whatever. I mean, if you were.
Some times have changed.
Yeah.
Since those days.
So it's going to be a tough one. There's a preview about it in the Times Free Press today I saw. And playing on that big field, I think everybody kind of overlooks that.
I've always said that factors in.
Yeah,
because high schools, particularly if a team is scores a lot of runs on short porches, then all of a sudden they're into that type of.
You got more ground to cover in the outfield. The stadium down there is, I think, 335 to left, and it's 400 to dead center. Mm-hmm. Gordon Lee's is like
350 to center.
Yeah, 350, and it's turf now. It's all synthetic turf. I did see where it said Gordon Lee had practiced at Ridgeland some this past week, to get them ready for the the bounces that are going to be a little bit faster and a little bit higher.
And let's say thank you to Ridgeland High School and Coach Harden for allowing Baylor to use their facilities. His facilities last week. Of course, they dropped 2 at that, but they wouldn't even been playing.
Yeah. And they were gonna, and Scott had even texted me and said, "Hey, Gordon Lee and them were welcome to use the field for that game against Vidalia."
That's right.
But Gordon Lee is also wanted to play at home, and it's their right. So,
okay.
Doubleheader tomorrow at 5:00 down in Rome. That's the old Rome Brave Stadium, now the Rome Emperor Stadium. And then if we go to a game 3, it's Tuesday at 12 noon. So. Okay. That's going on there. And then, is there any question who the greatest golfer on the planet is right now?
It's not even close.
What I saw the last 5 holes yesterday, and part of the back 9 today, is what we saw Tiger do, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
Guys would get close.
And then
Guys would get close, and they might even sniff the lead. They might even tie for the lead. And then when Tiger's like, nope, this tournament's mine, and he'd go on about a 2-3 hole stretch, and he just put it away. That's what Scotty did yesterday. That last 5 holes yesterday, 5 under, and then today, he's 9 under with John Rahm. They're tied.
Yes.
And then in a blink of an eye, he's 6 shots ahead.
Yeah. Well, Scotty has that. I don't know if you want to call it the X factor, the extra gear, the intimidation. I don't know. It's Scotty's got that thing of, if you're going to put him away, you better put him away early, and you better keep your foot on him while you got him away.
Yeah.
If you give him this much space, that's all he's got to have. And once he gets that momentum on his side, things just snowball.
He put it in the bunker, I think, on 14, and still made birdie.
Oh, he's not. That's the thing is.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I can explain this to regular players out there, because when you play with regular folks, getting in the bunker is a penalty, and it hurts people. Professional golfers, if you understood the amount of time that those guys spend in the sand, that don't mean nothing to them. For them, that's just a challenge. Oh, I can get it out of there. He literally got the Sandy marked on his card. He's going to take that $2 away from one of the other guys before the round is over with. Hey, by the way, had 3 Sandys out there today. That's $6.
Yeah. So I'm a little distracted by the monitor because I got a new phone and a new phone case, and this was supposed to be purple.
It is purple.
Well, it looks purple on the screen.
Yeah.
But it is certainly not purple here. It's purple-ish.
What color do you think that is?
They said, according to the manufacturer, this is deep blue / purple.
That's purple.
I've got a color in
That is lilac, lavender, whatever you want to call
Well, I
it.
mean, sure.
lavender
If
was
you
fine.
want,
Light fuchsia.
I mean,
it
sure,
Ain't,
if
it
you-
ain't Prince purple.
No,
That's
that
what I
ain't
was
Prince
going for.
not
If that
Prince
was what you
purple.
were going for,
I was going
Prince
for.
purple.
I was going for Prince purple, and it didn't. It didn't exactly
then,
make it
then
there.
no, you're going to stand on the sidelines.
That's
Well, I was
why
going
I
to go
just-
for mint green, but then I didn't want it to come out and people think it was gray, and then we got one of them shoe memes
yeah,
going. So
that's
I'm
why
like,
I always
don't
just
know.
do the. I just have the clear case. I decorate it myself.
I
if
was,
want
I
to,
was,
but-
I was looking for something different, and
Yeah.
I got it.
To echo what you said, when you get the opportunity to watch number one in the world get into these big tournaments and get to play like this down the stretch, so you're almost getting to see him shot for shot every hole.
Yeah,
It is an admiration to watch number one in the world
yeah,
hit golf balls
yeah.
like that.
And then he dropped the lid off the trophy, which a bunch of people have done. That Wanamaker trophy is 30 pounds. I guess he forgot the lid wasn't permanently on it, but he's not the first person that's
All
ever
right, so
done
here
that.
goes just a quick one.
Well, we had a
Since-
flyby.
Since we were just talking
you
about,
saw that too, right? I heard it.
yeah, it
He
was a
said- he
little.
said
I saw it. I saw
he's
it.
getting the,
Okay, I don't know
So-
what kind of bug that.
So
Don't
just
let him
it's
go
just
in
a
your
moth.
ear.
It's just a moth.
That ain't a
I
moth.
never tell you that
Stink
moth
bug.
story.
It's a stink bug.
I never told you my moth story.
No. Do you get one in your ear?
Guys, I mean, I'm
Did you
gonna,
pull a Ken Caminiti?
I'm going, yeah, even worse so. And then that moth died of a slow death too. I was in Clarksville, Tennessee, heading home to Paducah. That puts me about 2 hours from getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Get out to pump gas on a late night. One of those big old creatures flew dead in my ear. I knew what it was
Oh,
because
God.
it was shortly after that situation with the Braves. So I
Yeah.
was reliving it. Now I could not get this thing out, so I went to a local ER there, and I'm sorry, sir, we can get to you in a couple hours. Well, in a couple hours I can be home, and in a couple hours I might be dead too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I pull right into the ER when I get home. Nobody happens to be there. They take a syringe and they flush it out. Real easy. That thing's about like that
Golly.
to the viewers. And
Golly.
they put it in a little jar and said, "Do you want us to do away with it?" I said, "No. I got plans for this bug. This bug's give me hell for about 3 hours. It's got
Yeah.
some coming back to me.
Some come up.
Weapons.
So that can happen.
Yeah. If you
Wow.
don't know what we're talking about with the Brave situation, pull up Ken Caminiti Moth
Yeah.
on YouTube or whatever, and he was playing for the Astros, and all of a sudden he's playing third base, and all of a sudden the umpire calls timeout, and he's over there doing this number, whatever, and the trainers, I think it was the Braves trainer, came out, and a moth had flown down in his ear,
I've had that.
and they had to
Been there,
get
done
somebody and literally pull that thing
They
out.
did, and they couldn't do that, but they used a big syringe that flushed this thing out. And that doctor told me, he said, "Well, you'd never got this out." He said, "Well,
Oh.
eventually it would have died, but when
Oh.
that thing's beating on your eardrum,
I can't imagine what kind of
that's pretty
hell that
nerve-wracking.
was.
It's pretty nerve-wracking." All right,
Yeah.
but on to some other sports expedition.
All right. Anything else going on to talk about before we get into
The
rest
I
of
was
this?
trying to think. No, I mean, the F1 race today was fairly boring. It wasn't anything spectacular. McLaren's just basically running away with the Constructors' Championship, and Piastri's running away with the Drivers'
Okay,
Championship.
then I may
right
not
now,
watch it
so
later.
I mean, Verstappen wins the race, but it wasn't. There was
Oh, I was surprised.
several caution flag. Several what do they call them, safety cars.
Mm-hmm.
And all. There was just a couple of. It was kind of a crazy thing to watch. It wasn't anything.
Yeah.
Wasn't spectacular today.
Women's softball getting towards the super regionals now. Lots of
Yeah.
SEC teams still in it.
Absolutely. The baseball, from the Vols standpoint, I mean, absolutely not playing their best ball at the worst time.
No.
They're going to trickle into that as an 8 seed of all things. So that
But the 8th seed in the SEC is still like top 15 in the
it
country.
is, but that makes it pretty miserable opportunity.
Oh, I know.
Well, if you
pitching-wise,
didn't-
to win that,
They
thing, too.
gotta play like 9:30 on Wednesday and then turn around and play like
Well, the pitching taxes.
12-1,
and
yeah.
They don't have the greatest pitching staff as it is. So
No, they
they're
got-
just taxied it.
they got one good guy at this point.
Anybody that did not see the news, you saw, or Brock Purdy re-signs with the 49ers for an insane amount of money. That
5 years, 265, 181 guaranteed.
Yeah, that I would argue you till I'm blue in the face that he's not worth, but
Well,
again, that's
but Rusty, if you look at those
oh,
ones,
that's
there's only a couple of them that are worth
and
that.
that's comparable prices all the way around the league.
Your
I
boy
mean,
Dak's leading
I know.
the, at 60.
My boy Dak is the king of not being paid way more than what he's worth. So
And Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant.
yeah.
He was the last player picked in the draft.
And that poor cat is never going to outrun that for his entire career.
Well, and imagine that too, Rusty. I mean because
he's got 265 million reasons not to think about it right now. Though.
Mister, I know more about football and I know more about how to handle funds over there. If the Dallas Cowboys is paying Dak more than anybody in the league. So,
Cowboys did make a nice little pickup here in the last week and a half-ish, though. We did pick up Pickens to play opposite of CeeDee Lamb. And, it's funny, like George Pickens is one of those players that's literally like a choir boy off the field, but by golly, you put him in between those lines, and he's like early 2000s Pac-Man Jones off the field. Rough.
I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut.
Rough character. There ain't.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. It was a water squirting incident.
Listen,
yeah,
in
no, I
Knoxville
know.
one year,
Listen,
and
suddenly the division has gotten really, really good.
Yeah.
So you can't
sit there and not do something.
No.
Yeah.
Only the Giants are struggling, but the other two are marching full steam ahead in Washington and the
Philadelphia.
Eagles. So if the Cowboys want to beat their chest and late in the year, they gotta put forth a bigger effort.
Well, you did see they got when the schedule come out, the Cowboys have the toughest. Is it 6 games in a row? I think it is. It's the all-time toughest 6-game stretch in NFL history.
Well, what'd they do to deserve that?
They're facing 6 straight teams that won 11-plus games and made the playoffs last year to end the season.
I don't know what they did to deserve that.
It's an insane stretch.
Just the luck of the draw?
I guess. I do want to bring something up before we get into what we were talking about. It was something, and it just popped into my head because I saw the thing pop up the other day, and it's something near and dear to all of us. Pete Rose finally reinstated.
Yeah.
And
finally,
not only Pete Rose reinstated, Shoeless Joe Jackson reinstated. Yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
No.
I mean, honestly, I've thought for years that Pete Rose should have been reinstated anyways, but at the same time, they told him, you're not going in the Hall of Fame in your lifetime.
No, it's a lifetime ban.
It's a lifetime ban.
It's not an eternal ban.
No,
it's a lifetime
ban. And he never got to enjoy the spoils of being a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. And Shoeless Joe, and there's others too, but Shoeless Joe especially, I don't think for 1 second that he was throwing a World Series.
I don't either.
He batted .357. I don't think. I mean, it's like they talked an 8 men out or surmise. He couldn't read.
No, he could not.
I really don't think he understood what was being asked of him to do.
He ran when he died, he was running a liquor store up in Kentucky. Is where he was.
Well, Scott, let me ask you another question though. Yes, now they're eligible. Now we come Part B. The same group of riders are not going to put them in there. It's going to have to come from that other source.
I guarantee you, Jackson goes in on the very first eligibility on the Veterans Committee.
Okay,
he's one of those. I mean, and the reason I say that is because he's one of those white whale legends. All the baseball players know who Shoeless Joe was. I mean,
his era is long gone, Rusty.
Huh?
His era is long gone.
Well, it is,
but he's still a mythical figure.
He's a mythical figure that's not
baseball.
In there, and that's one of those things where if you asked a baseball writer right now, who's the number one person not in the Hall of Fame, that should have been, and he's a name that will get dropped a lot of the times. Because, and they'll say the same thing Scott and I just said. I don't think for a minute he was guilty. I think he was taken advantage of because he couldn't read. Blah, blah, so forth, so on. I think... Now, Rose...
You feel like he's got that much more empowerment amongst the Veterans Committee than Pete Rose?
Well, I think there's a whole
because
lot of...
Pete admitted that he did what he did.
But I think there's a whole lot of people who are lobbying, let's say, to get Pete Rose in. And I'm talking about guys like Clemens and Bonds and Palmeiro and all the guys caught up in the performance-enhancing drug scandals and all that. All those guys are like, man, let's get Pete in there. Let's get, that gives us even that much
chance,
fodder to the argument.
Yeah.
And that's,
Okay, well, I buy into that, but I really think it's almost silliness when we've talked about it for decades now, how Pete Rose isn't in that, which we all said many times over he will be when he gets, unfortunately, not with us,
or he should be. It just depends. There's still some riders out there that are going to hold it against him and that aren't going to want to vote for him. But I think as time goes on and those people stop voting,
yep.
And we get a new crop in there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do.
Maybe weren't even around back then. They'll see and look and say, hey,
Of course, there are also riders out there that believe that Ken Griffey Jr. wasn't a unanimous Hall of Famer. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but if there's ever been a unanimous Hall of Famer,
who was it? Mariano
Rivera was the
only
first.
one.
Is the only
Babe
one.
Ruth wasn't even a unanimous. Hank Aaron wasn't unanimous.
How the hell is Cy Young? Wasn't he not? You literally named the pitcher award after him. I come on, man. I
don't know.
That stuff. I feel like that gets back to if a sports writer has never been anything but a sports writer. This is going to sound uncomplimentary to sports writers, but sometimes I feel like there's a certain part that they don't understand when it comes to that Major League Baseball experience.
Yeah.
And to be what some of those guys were year in and year out, and to have accomplished what they accomplished, if you can't take away what happened on the field from what happened off the field, because where there were some miserable people, of course, Ty Cobb was one of the most hateful human beings that ever drawed breath. Mm-hmm. But he was also quite possibly the greatest baseball player that's ever played.
And I understand a couple here and there have not voted for somebody knowing they were going to get in just to keep somebody else that they may have covered personally on the ballot longer.
Right, and I get that.
Yeah, I get that, but look, this is the Hall of Fame. If you're voting for the guy, so he'll keep 25% of the vote. Yeah. Just go ahead and vote for the guy, and if he doesn't make it, he doesn't make it. I'm sorry, but the people that deserve to be in should be voted in.
Well, and again, it's been getting better, Scott, because we've been talking. Us guys been talking about this 30 years almost now.
We have. So
we know there's been many riders move on and others come in, and there is getting a closeness. But for, I saw this the other day, and I see people put up his numbers compared to other Hall of Fame numbers. And when you do that, Andrew Jones's numbers are there.
Yeah,
they're there.
The power numbers are there.
But what he did for a decade was.
I know, but they keep saying, look, 257 average. 257 average, and that's what everybody keeps saying. And then, but I look now and I'm like, the guys that are leading the league in home runs and RBIs are batting 257.
A 257 average now is the MVP.
Most of the time you're not taking their worst years and bringing them into you're taking that era of time that they were dominant in the sport.
Yes.
And you're comparing. You've had this argument about Dale Murphy
a million times over.
What he did during his moment of excellence. Yeah. But what happens is we're using a lot of those lean years when maybe he should have just quit.
Yeah, he had some injury problems and just it wasn't the same. But
he played on a terrible team with nobody in the lineup.
But some of those great numbers were being
82, 83, they made the playoffs.
Oh yeah, I know. And he hit 40 home runs both those years. And
what do you
two-time MVP?
Yeah, two-time MVP, and how many times All-Star, Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, and all this stuff. But people will say, and people used to say, well, he didn't make it to 400 home runs. Well, there weren't a whole lot of people hitting 400 home runs back then.
They brought him back.
He tried. He was injured
and
couldn't. Well, his length of dominance wasn't long enough. It was only like 5-6 years, something like that.
Well,
but for 5 or 6 years, and if you only played 12 years, half of your career, you were the best player in the game.
But you can almost say there was 9 or 10 with Andrew.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, he came up.
So how much more we got to
He
say?
came up, hit a grand slam home run in the World Series at age 19.
Yeah, how many more years we got to talk about? He wasn't.
Was he
dominant
not
for 20?
17 his first 2 at bats in Yankee Stadium in the
I
World
think
Series that
well,
year?
he
19.
Was he? I
19.
thought
he was 19.
17.
No, he was
young.
19.
He was young.
He was the youngest person to ever
Yeah.
hit a grand slam in the World Series.
And he hit 2 home runs in that
Mickey,
same
and
game.
beat Mickey Mantle's mark.
Well,
Yeah.
he's also,
Yeah.
Scott, during that time that you can talk about some of his batting average slipping. That never happened with the glove.
No.
Okay.
Oh, no.
So
he
we
might
still
be
would-
the best defensive center fielder there ever has been.
Well,
He just.
Willie Mays has the most center field
Putouts.
Gold gloves,
Well.
but Andrew's one behind him, I think, Scott.
Yeah, and Andrew just made it look so smooth. I mean, he didn't
Yep.
look like he was running fast. There were balls like, there's no way that ball's going anywhere but on the ground.
That's
And
what
it-
got
you
him
know-
accused of lollygagging.
And Willie
I
Mays
mean,
played longer
lollygagger.
than Andrew.
Yeah,
too.
lollygaggers.
He's a lollygagger.
But he was talented. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't take that away from
No.
him. He's very talented.
No.
All right,
Absolutely.
well, we've put it off long enough. Let's get back to what we started talking about originally, and that is simply this. We talked about this a week and a half ago. We brought this up, and the question was, what is your Mount Rushmore of Chattanooga sports media or sports personalities?
We said sports personality.
And we said sports personalities, so that kind of opened it up to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We threw a whole bunch out there. Scott's got the tallies of what all you folks out there had to say.
Yeah, I was just going to run down some of the names
ahead,
because
go
I mean
ahead.
some of the we haven't even mentioned before. There were votes for Sam Woolwine, Connor Gilbert, Lindsey Young, Gibby Gilbert, Greg Larnard, Angela Moyen, Jill Jelnick, Catherine Neely got a couple votes.
Yeah.
Chris Goforth got a couple votes. Mac McCarthy, Stephen Hargis, David Pascal, Laura Oakman, Roscoe Tanner.
Oh, I didn't think about Roscoe
We
Tanner.
didn't think about Gerald Wilkins. We've mentioned Joe Engel. Pete and Ralph Potter both got one. Scrappy Moore, Dave Staley, Chris Richardson, Tyrus Ward, Joe Morrison, Murray Arnold, Jordan Lean, John Hanna, Venus Lacey. I'm going to save the biggest ones, the most vote getters for later. Harry Thornton
Oh, there you go.
got 2 votes.
Well, I should have voted. We had 3.
Terrell Owens,
Yeah.
Ashley Houts,
Yeah.
Red Zone Ron Hall,
Red Zone Ron deserved a vote or 2. I'm sorry, he did.
Johnny Taylor. Here's one I cannot believe we didn't. Terry Gordy.
Johnny Taylor. Who's making love to your old lady? Different Johnny Taylor.
Different Johnny Taylor. I think
That's Johnny Taylor.
this is the Mox
Oh,
basketball
okay,
player that went in the
okay.
lottery.
Oh, okay.
Raymond Bird. I'm not sure who Raymond Bird was, but
I don't know.
that was on the list. I mentioned Terry Gordy, Jerry Haskew, Frank Seabolt, and some guy named Scott Herbst got a vote.
Did you
Got her.
really?
Got her.
All
I
right.
actually got a vote, and
Now,
I am
you're
super,
holding out for who
Look,
it was,
hey,
Scott.
No,
I think you know.
I know who it was. No, it was Kim McGraw. And if you're out there listening, Kim, thank you. I mean, I was like,
Scott deserves a vote.
am I reading this right? I was like, Mount Rushmore. No, but I appreciate being
I do. You deserve
recognized.
at least a recognition.
Okay, now the ones that got the most votes, 4
It
or
does
more.
not say this is the Mount Rushmore.
No,
You're
no,
just
no,
giving
no.
out
I'm just giving the
facts.
votes. With 4 votes, Joe Engel, Randy Smith, Daryl Patterson, Larry Ward with 5,
Yeah.
JR and Dr. B with 6,
Yeah.
our friend Scott
Quake.
McMahon, the Quake, with 7, Rick Honeycutt with 10, Reggie White with 17, and leader in the clubhouse with 19, Stump Martin.
Well, we are a little partial, but
Well,
But I
We
would
did-
agree.
and we didn't vote.
we did not.
no, we have not voted.
We did not.
Okay, I think we're all in agreement. Stump should be there.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you look at with the Catoosa County News, the Free Press, with the TV show, with the radio stuff, with
The connection with coaches for decades.
the helping get the Stadium of 1,000 Dreams built, with all of his baseball and softball and every other sport he helped cover and promote,
Yep.
I think Stump's got to be there.
Tennessee Georgia All-Star games that are still being
Yeah,
played.
but you can even with Stump, you can even, you know. Obviously, we're talking about this being a sports personality part, but you can even throw a nod to when Stump started writing hard news and being literally the voice of a generation for about a year while everybody was trying to figure out what in the hell was going on down at the crematory.
He broke the story.
He broke that story. He came on Judy's show. He came on everybody else. I mean, every local show had him on at some point or another talking about that. He interviewed every night.
He interviewed the guy who was walking his dog, who found the body part.
Yes.
And I'll never forget. I'm down at the office, the messenger, and Stump calls me. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm sitting here at the office." He said, "I'm about to pull up. Get in." So where are we going? He said, I can't tell you. Just get in the car.
Come on.
And I said, okay. And so I hop in. He had the Corvette at the time, the green one. And I said, where are we going? He takes off back the other way. He said, this is about to break. This is about to break. And he told me what was going on. I'm like, oh God. And
Yep.
The magnitude of it really didn't hit me until we had TV stations, CNN, Australia, a bunch of other places were calling our office to see if they could use that as a temporary office.
Yeah, can we, y'all's little bitty cracker box of an office.
And our editor's like, look, whatever. And this guy from Australia finally told us, like, this is your 15 minutes of fame. You just step up and do
take
it.
it.
He's pressuring y'all
like,
now.
okay. But
y'all just got pressure.
yeah, I mean, I think he's got to be there.
Oh, yeah.
I
think
agree.
he's got it.
And we could go on and on and on. There's a lot of good ones on this list, and we're not going to overlook it by any measure. But yes, we're all friends with Stump Martin, but we're also admirers
as
of
well.
what Stump did, and so to not for him not to be on that list, it would be a head scratcher.
Yeah.
He just really would.
I will tell you, and I told Rob earlier, I mean, my four are Stump, Joe Engel, Daryl Patterson, and Dr. B. Stump and Dr. B because I knew both of them personally. I loved both of them personally. Joe Engel, you cannot deny what that man did for baseball in the Chattanooga, especially professional baseball in Chattanooga. And then I throw Daryl. I throw Daryl on there because, and really, I would say it's 4A and 4B because I put Randy on there as well. Because when I was a kid and I watched local news, those are my sports guys. Were Randy and Daryl.
Yeah.
And Daryl's who I put on there because, I remember being a fan of Daryl before he had hair. And that's the truth of it.
And I've stated on here, Daryl's one of the reasons I got in this business.
Yeah.
Because I watched him all the time. Joe Engel definitely deserves to be there, and all those guys. Dr. B, obviously. This would, Sport Talk was the first, true sports talk show in Chattanooga. And it became popular really all over the Southeast. And Dr. B was a huge part of that. So I don't think you can deny that either. And Larry Ward, who's done with the Lookouts and the Mocks and Lady Mocks for so long.
JR's been at it now 45
but
years.
But JR's the other one that I think you almost got to have room for JR on there because he's been with the Mocks now for over 40 years. He's been there for so many big moments. And, like I said, when they won the NIT a couple months ago, I was more excited for him than anything else. And I remember the end of that game, I had it on the internet feed on the radio, and I went into the kitchen to listen to it instead of seeing it because I wanted to hear JR call the final seconds when they actually won it. We're only supposed to choose four, but it's tough.
And let me say this: we're going to leave a body 2 or 3 or 5 off. Okay, we really are.
I thought of one while we were sitting here. What about Ralph and Karen?
But there's contributions.
Oh, there's plenty of people we haven't.
And then you got when we talk about Joe Engel, guys, we weren't alive. We didn't get to honestly.
We weren't alive.
We weren't alive, but
you
no, I wasn't there either. What he did for Chattanooga for decades, and what that meant, I don't think we can ignore that. Even though we didn't live it. But Chattanooga lived it.
Look at the barnstorming team he brought in.
When did you start? In the 20s?
In the 20s.
Yeah.
He brought that barnstorming team in there that one year that had like Ruth and Garrick and all them on it. When, what's her name? Jackie
Mitchell.
Jackie Mitchell pitched against him in Ingle Stadium. I mean,
he had used car night. He gave away a house
It was.
If
it
you
was
ever heard that story, he actually gave away a house.
Right, it was a different era and time, but I don't think we can put our heads in the sand and say, well, it wasn't our time, so we can't really respect it. It meant what Stump Martin meant in his era. It meant what Daryl Patterson has meant in his era. JR's meant in his era. It's what he did then that I think that we cannot ignore his impact. And so at this point in time, I vote Stump Martin, and I definitely have Joe Wingo on there as well. And that leaves us at two.
I think.
Oh, those two I think we're unanimous on.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement there. Now, we got votes for two athletes more than anybody else. Reggie and Rick Honeycutt.
Yep.
Of course, Rick being from Lakeview.
Rick from our alma mater.
And who went on to pitch in the World Series and win a World Series ring. And Reggie's got a Super Bowl championship ring, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
And he is in the Hall of Fame, and I saw something that came out a while back that I thought was really interesting. It had the all-time, and you can argue this, the all-time per position, all-time defensive team that ever had played. And Reggie was on that.
Of course he was.
Yeah.
Now, there were some people that were left off of that you might think, well, Butkus wasn't on that. There was a set of linebackers that had Lewis,
Taylor,
one more that was really, really, really good. But you had Butkus not on that, so you can make these arguments. But Reggie was on that team. Yeah. And that
Reggie made some of the best offensive linemen who ever played look silly.
And I played against him, at least for a play.
That little club move and just swat him out of the way and go. He was just so big and so quick and agile, not to mention being so strong. And he knew how to play the position. He knew how to hand fight. And he didn't have just one move. He had a bunch of moves.
Reggie.
I mean, if we're going to put an
made
athlete
a living on the swim.
But let me make the argument that we said sports personalities. We didn't say sports best defensive end that ever came out of Chattanooga, and he would be that. And he is arguably the most celebrated athlete that's ever come out of Chattanooga.
Yeah.
But I don't know that falls in that category of what I just said, sports personality. He did a lot for Chattanooga, but he did a lot of it in recognition of where else he was, and that got to come back home to Chattanooga.
Yeah.
I think there's some others on this list that did their
a lot
work
more,
right here.
Did their work in
a lot
Chattanooga,
more home
yes.
cooking.
There you go.
I mean, that would be my argument against Reggie is while Reggie did a lot throughout his career, how much specifically did he do for Chattanooga?
That's what I'm saying too.
That's where I would.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's where if you take a look at those two athletes, Honeycutt's done a hell of a lot more over the years for Chattanooga than Reggie has with golf tournaments and a little bit of everything throughout the years. They've got the ranch and stuff now to where they have things and they're all there. I mean, Rick's done a lot over the years. So
yeah.
I would give him, not because I think he's a better, I mean, I don't know that there's another athlete that's ever come out of Chattanooga that's anywhere near even in Reggie's league. But that would be my argument there.
Let me bring up my next candidate that I honestly have a strong argument for, and we all do. We all have similar arguments for, and there's a lot of them there that are still very much worthy of being on this list. We're gonna feel bad whoever we leave off.
I just thought of two coaches that we left off, maybe three or four coaches that nobody.
We've left off coaches. I mean, absolutely. Yeah. My next strong name is Daryl Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
And Daryl Patterson was on the air for 3+ decades.
Yep.
Saw him on many sidelines. We all grew up watching him on TV. When arguably in my era, I can say Channel 9 led the ratings in Chattanooga.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that. And they probably got the numbers to validate it. He's gone on to still stay in the limelight of sports with golf tournaments that he's been a part of. He's now part of the Chattanooga Area Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
I think people really look at what he's got to bring to the table as being valid towards any of the names that get in there.
Yeah.
Daryl Patterson was somebody that when he was out and about, whether he meant to or not, whether he appreciated it or not, people knew who he was.
Yeah.
You know, there's others in this boat. But I really think because Channel 9 was so strong during his era that Daryl Patterson was a huge part of that. And for that reason, I honestly think you can't deny his entry into the Mount Rushmore of Chattanooga sports personalities.
And to be the guy, the sports anchor for a TV station in one city for that length of time, and
something we don't see.
No, nowadays, they go from one city to the next,
That's right.
and to better their career and be in front of a bigger market.
And we got
stuff
some good
like
ones
that.
on the air right
Oh,
now.
we got some great
excellent ones on there. But to say I know there'll be around 30 years of it,
Also,
I don't know
bring
how
up
bad
the
they
fact,
like it here.
though, that a local sports.
And then Daryl's like from Athens, right?
he's from Athens.
Also, bring up the fact that somebody like Daryl, to have been as charismatic and all as he was, had somebody go to him at the start of every broadcast and go, "Hey, buddy, you got 3 minutes. See what you can do."
Yeah,
You wrap up Chattanooga.
Yeah, give us all the sports you got. 3 minutes.
yeah.
3 minutes, bud. That's what you got.
I mean, welcome to the life before cable and social
Yeah, I
media
mean,
and smartphones.
That part.
If you wanted to watch sports, you got 5 minutes at 6:25 and 5 minutes at 11:25.
11:25
and pick up the paper the next day.
Yes. And I mean, and that, to me, that's what makes, now, Rob brings a good point. We got guys now. I don't know that we have any guys that are on local television right now that we're going to be talking about 30 years from now. But I'll tell you one thing, I can think of about 3 or 4 guys right off the top of my head that 20 or 30 years from now we're still going to be talking about in print media. And 2 or 3 of them are really good friends of ours that I think people will still be talking about.
Yes, and again, does time on the job factor in on what we're talking about? Absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
And we got some people there that maybe that
But
we
quality
foolishly
of work,
leave off that they've got time on the job, but we got to wait for those. Stephen Hargis is a tailbuster when it comes to sports information.
Oh God, yeah.
I think everybody in this town right now relies on what he knows.
And Steven's been doing it 30 plus years now.
Well, he started as an intern at the paper when he was, 16, 17 years old? I mean...
And some of the names that didn't even get mentioned, but just, we're talking about, print media. Buck Johnson and Roy Exum and Wiedmer and Mark McCarter and, I know Lindsay got mentioned, Ward Gossett.
Kelly Smitty.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys that have been around for years and years and years and years and years.
And we've watched the paper, the print in
man, this is hard.
We've watched that shrink. While we've actually watched, we can't say we watched TV shrink. We've seen the Daryl Pattersons of the world that, like Rusty said, you got 3 minutes, get it all in.
Yeah, get it in there, buddy.
Now we got other channels out there that go 24/7 with it, right?
Yeah, but look at locally,
but not
though.
locally.
You never thought you would see a day when on a Friday night the 3 major channels in Chattanooga, 3, 9, and 12, would dedicate 30 minutes during high school football season to an actual high school football sports score show.
That's true.
30 years ago, that was absolutely unheard of.
15 minutes tops.
But the Randy Smiths and the Daryl Pattersons would have loved to have done that.
Oh, they'd have had a ball, and they'd have been great at it.
If that was on the table back then.
Yeah.
You're right, Rusty. Daryl had to bring us what we're talking about and putting him on the Mount Rushmore. We had to bring that in. Okay, you got 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
but he made that much of an impact. Randy as well.
The evolution of sports coverage in our lifetimes, think about the sports that, we like all sports, and we watch most all sports. But think about, when we were kids, you didn't even get a whole NASCAR race. You got the highlights. We didn't get we never saw a West Coast baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you were watching, TBS Superstation, the Braves are playing, the Padres or the Giants or something, you might get to see something from the West Coast. But
we didn't even get the NBA Finals live. It was on tape delay because nobody cared about the league because they had such a drug problem at the time that they tape delayed the finals.
Yes.
That was until Magic Bird got there in 1980. Yes. We didn't say, but baseball, you're right. If you didn't have cable,
you didn't.
You
got that Saturday afternoon game,
or the Tuesday, or the Monday, Tuesday night game.
Let
me
tell you one of those.
And it was always Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers,
Yankees, and whoever they got on the schedule.
I saw the Braves before.
Tim McCarver was always the color guy on those broadcasts.
I saw the Braves one time, and that was they were playing the Reds when Pete Rose was having his 44-game hitting streak.
Yeah, I go back further when it was Joe Garagiola and his cohort. They were good at it too. But
who was it? Kurt Gowdy, Dizzy Dean.
Kurt Gowdy, I think.
No, Joe, and there was another guy that was pretty good too, but I can't think. His name won't pop in my head right now.
Right. Red Barber. I won't go back that far.
No. You do mention Kurt Gowdy because
Vin Scully didn't.
Vin Scully.
No,
I thought Scully did a couple of them broadcasts nationally.
Vin used to do a lot of those Saturday games
you need
because
to Google who did it with
Garagiola.
Yeah.
It was another lesser name, but at the same token, he knew baseball.
Pedro Bourbon.
Yeah,
he knew baseball. Okay,
I've got three. I think we're all kind of in agreement on three of them, right?
Are we?
Stump, Joe Engel, and Daryl Patterson.
I'm good there, and again, 5, 6, 7, and 8 is I'm good there too, but we got to go with 4.
And I've got it down to about 3 people. For
Tony
the fourth
Kubek.
One.
Tony Kubek.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
He was good at it. Him and Garagiola, they knew the Yankees real well.
So, as much as we love Reggie, once he left Chattanooga area,
he left Chattanooga.
Yeah, and I mean he might. I know he came back a few times, but I mean his career was in Memphis, Philadelphia, Green Bay.
In the NFL.
Yeah. I think it comes down JR, Dr. B, and Quake.
Yeah. And I mean,
one of those.
Based on
I think I know who I'm going to vote for.
JR is who you. The younger crew is going to say Quake because that's who they still have now. Those of us of a certain age are going to lean towards Dr. B because we just love Dr. B because he was just a fun, great old guy.
And you know what Quake's going to say? We all love Quake.
Quake would say Dr. B.
Quake's going to say Dr. B.
Yeah, he would.
And JR both were mentors of his.
I think so too.
But, but if you're talking, I think let's not forget personality.
Well, I mean,
my vote, and it's a very slim vote. I'm voting for Dr. B.
Well, yeah, if it's personality, I mean, that's not even close.
Yeah, because, I mean...
JR's a great guy, but, I mean, Dr. B's like Stump Light. I mean, just tons of personality.
Y'all must not ever listen to JR when he had the Village Idiots with him and Wally.
Well, yeah.
I could argue that it was JR's finest moments when he had that 1 hour show.
They were funny in the
They were super at what they did. I've told him that in person many
My mother-in-law
times,
loved their show.
Yeah. I've been a JR fan when he used to do the sports updates on the KZ Morning Zoo.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And I don't want to...
We are going back a ways on that.
Listen, I don't want to...
I told you, I'm a little old.
There's one other name that I'm not trying to make this even more difficult than it is, but I think Randy Smith is one of those people as well.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think you can take Randy, JR, DP, Quake, and you take all 4 of those guys because they all, in a roundabout way, are kind of the same person. They've all done the play-by-play. They've all done the talk show. They've all done, they've gone out. They've covered the games. You're not going wrong with any of those 4 guys by putting them on the list.
No.
They're all. I mean, that's the thing is our Mount Rushmore could literally be 7 or 8 guys because there are just some. And I will say it, and Scott will probably echo this. One of the thrills of my life to this very day, Scott and I were playing in the Ridgeland football golf tournament at Canyon Ridge, then Macklemore now. And we got out into the parking lot after having had our free barbecue lunch, and Sport Talk was set up in the parking lot.
No, that wasn't the original. It was
the media tournament?
It was the media tournament when Canyon Ridge opened.
Yeah, so it's the media tournament. So they're set up out in the parking lot. And Scott and I see them, and we walked over and just BS'd with them for a minute. They went to a commercial break, and Doc goes, "Hey, won't you boys grab a headset and sit down with us?" Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that
what?
Yeah.
Because I have listened to
sir.
Sport Talk since 1989
Yes.
when they were on 11.
Called in a million times, but yeah.
And I told him that. I said, you know how many
Yeah.
TGI Fridays $5 gift certificates I won just by answering your trivia questions?
But that day, Scott Herbst
he got
and I,
such a kick out of that.
That day, we sat down with headsets, and we were part of Sport Talk for, I think, 2 breaks.
Yeah.
And it was, media-wise, one of the biggest thrills, Chattanooga area, that I've ever got to be a part of.
You know, with the 4 that we've kind of narrowed it down to, we're not making a mistake with any one of those 4.
No, and I'm just going to throw this out there, but Randy did also do a lot of work in Knoxville.
Yeah, he did.
He did, and he had a tremendous voice that got him up to Knoxville.
Oh, I'm not, but I'm just saying,
respect.
he did split his time between Chattanooga and Knoxville.
True.
Although, I mean, he was so well known in Chattanooga, still writes for the Chattanoogan. He was doing, was it LFO football just a few years back?
A couple years ago, him and Red Zone did it.
I'm just throwing it out there because we talked about how Reggie had his part of his career in other cities, and Randy did have some stuff in Knoxville.
Yeah.
Fair.
But that's no knock against him. It's just throwing it out there. I don't know. God, I don't know.
We'll debate the rest of this off the air.
Maybe we just have 3.
And later on tonight,
Mount Rushmore light. We just have 3 people.
You say that, and I know time's getting close, but that 4th person, Rusty, is so deserving of being recognized.
Yes.
As the other 3 was.
Yes.
It's not like they are not as accomplished as the other.
No. They're every bit.
How about we have this? We have a Mount Rushmore of 3 heads, and then we have a smaller with about 6 heads.
We have a little television screen that just represents all of our.
Well, it is our show.
Just a rotating block that has about 4 faces on it.
It is our show, but it also shows some indecisiveness on our part that we can't come up with numbers.
So we're not putting me on there, is what we're saying.
No Scott Hurst.
Well,
I got to vote.
It would be easier for me to put you on there than the other
Ron
4.
got 2. Why don't we just put Ron on there? Ron got 2 votes. Ron's ahead of me.
I think we are.
And again, thank you, Kim. I don't know if I deserve it, but thank you.
Like I said, I think we are.
Thank you, Kim.
Our 3 are pretty obvious because.
But I still think the 4th one is just as forth bringing this as the other 3.
This was not supposed to be.
If I have got to pick one of those remaining guys, I've already told you. I mean, for me, if I've got to pick one of those guys, I'm picking Daryl Patterson.
No, you said Dr. B.
Well, yeah,
you've already got Daryl in the club. So your 4th one would be Dr. B.
My 4th one would be Dr. B. I mean,
very reluctantly, and I apologize to the other people involved whose names we mentioned, I have to give it to Dr. B as well.
Well, at this point in time, my vote becomes very muted since I'd be outvoted. But and again, Dr. B was a pure joy to listen to on the radio, and that show, even though it's continued, that show misses Dr. B with every episode.
Yep.
It does, even though it's still got the tremendous success because of
and they've done a fantastic job of what they have continued to do with that show.
That's
losing that kind of voice and personality.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no problems with it being Dr. B because he was impactful, very much so.
So we are in agreement.
Yes.
Stump Martin, Joe Engel, Daryl Patterson,
and Dr. B. Jerry Haskew. Gary, yeah, I said Jerry, didn't I? Gary Haskew, sorry.
I can't argue.
Jerry, great guy too.
Jerry is a great music man.
Cannot argue, and the ones that we are
Also
that are-
receiving votes.
Yeah.
You being
Yeah.
one.
No.
Kim.
I mean, see that breaks down, and there's you the debate that we could literally have for an entire show, and who knows,
I
maybe
can't
in
wait
the
till
summer.
it comes up to Walker County,
That we-
Catoosa County Sports Writer of the Decade.
That's right.
Kim's going to vote for him.
How many?
I already know one vote.
Well, he'd be competing against Stump. I mean, not in the decade, but but I mean, think
Yeah, let's
about
just keep it to this
if
decade.
you
I
just
think
said
I may have a shot at that one.
if you just said the last 30 years, the best sports writers, print writers. You can rattle 10 off the top of your head without
Yeah.
even
And I
trying.
wrote this down. I mean, you could do an
Yeah.
athlete category. You could do a media category. You could do it in just a newspaper category. Coaches category. We didn't even bring up names like Wayne Turner and
Well, like I said, Ralph and Karen Wheatley.
Akins,
Akins,
Frank Reed.
Hall,
Red Eder.
Yeah.
Robert High.
Robert High.
Yeah.
I was going to say Robert Hall. I'm like, I know it's not Robert Hall. I just
okay.
drew a blank.
Coach
on that.
Higgins from Howard.
I mean,
Yeah,
900
absolutely.
wins. I mean,
Norma Nelson.
Jim Smitty.
What, 700 and something?
900.
900
She
something,
just
yeah.
passed 900
I mean,
Still doing
coaching
it.
wins.
Still doing it.
we said Catherine Neely, but I mean, she deserves being mentioned again.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah. Frank
it's-
Reed
Yeah.
with
I mean,
Chattanooga State and with UTC.
You said, Mac McCarthy was mentioned on there. Scrappy Moore was mentioned on there.
You're right, Scott. We could have broke that down, but anytime anybody puts together a Mount Rushmore, we've tried to do this many times with wrestling, and we've flipped it around every
Yeah.
time.
You can get one or two, like, definite, and then everything
And then
else,
we start to say 5, 6, and 7's just
Yeah.
like 3 and 4.
I think we've done a good job of trying to break everything
Well, all
down.
4 of those people.
Yes.
And we don't know Joe Engel, but we
know those other three.
our grandparents knew Joe Engel.
Yep.
So we know the other 3, and the 3 or 4 that were so debatable on our end, we know them as well, and they are super individuals at what
That's
they've
the other
done.
problem. We know all these guys personally
Yep.
too, and it makes it hard because
We do.
Well,
we like all these
we do.
guys.
One more thing on a little bit of a tangent before we get out of here. If you haven't had a chance, those of you out there that are wrestling fans like we all are, if you've not had a chance to watch The Dark Side of the Ring from this past week, it was about the Sheik.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Not
gotta
the
watch that
Iron
one.
Sheik, the original Sheik. Ed Farhat. It was called Blood, Fire, and the Original Sheik.
Yeah.
That's his name, Ed Farhat.
Ed Farhat is his real name. And they talked about the fact that basically he held kayfabe his entire life. He never one time went out in public that he did not hold on to the Sheik persona.
He
Had
bought
a
into that.
Japanese death match that had second-degree burns
Yes.
over most of his body.
His skin was dripping off his body with his nephew, basically, and you find out in this, you might as well call him his son because he practically raised him.
Yeah.
And that's Sabu that just passed away,
Okay.
about a week or so
Okay.
ago.
Yeah.
Didn't know
Yeah.
that.
But that one is,
It's no wonder he found an identity.
well, they
I got
talk
an
about,
idea.
basically that he grafted that character and he never changed. He adapted it many times in different ways and stuff, but from the time he came out as the Sheik, he was never anything but the Sheik, and he was, like Jim Cornette tells a story about one night they were in Cobo Arena in Detroit, and like there's a match going on in the ring, and all attention in the place goes to the floor because a stretch limousine pulls in, and he gets out in a 3-piece suit. Dude's carrying his stuff to the back, and it's just everybody just oh the Sheik's here tonight, and that was it. So
Well, and going back to our conversation of always coming up with a Mount Rushmore, it's difficult because in most places there's more than just 4
Yes.
that fit the
Yeah.
bill.
Of course
and
there
in
is.
in our little idea here, and whoever came up with it, I appreciate y'all thinking of that.
I believe that was yours, wasn't it?
I
Thank
thought
you,
it was.
Rob.
I thought it was very
Rob
worthy.
going little Barry Horowitz there.
I thought it was very worthy that we recognize those type of people
Yeah.
because they've meant a lot, and you could break that down in different categories, and we tried to argue that out of it. What those individuals and the ones that quite didn't make it what they mean to the Chattanooga market.
Yeah. If look, I mean, taking myself out of the equation, if your name's on that list, I mean, you've meant something to somebody in the Chattanooga area, and you've made your mark sports wise. You know that somebody out there is, appreciates what you've done or what you're still doing.
That's right.
To boost sports in the Chattanooga area, whether that's to promote athletes or to promote a team or to whatever. It's a pretty big honor.
Well, folks, remember as we make our way into the summertime, we're going to hit that stretch where there's not a lot going on as far as local sports, so we'll bring a lot more of these fun topics up that we do enjoy talking about, and we'll try to put some more stuff on the website so that you guys can join in as well. Don't be surprised if we expand this Mount Rushmore argument a little bit into basketball coaches, football coaches. We could do any number of directions that we could take this.
I'll tell you something.
So
2.5 months, we have our first fall scrimmages of the year for football.
Well, me and Rusty was talking that before you got there, Scott. After next week and the spring winds down, we're immediately
right back into it.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we appreciate you tuning in with us tonight. We'll catch y'all again next week, same time, same place.
Well, the days are short and the nights are long. A room slowly fills with song. All I need is one reminder. Parkway, blue blinders. Well, I begged and cheated and I borrowed for my life upon the road. I'm still looking for some gold at the end of my rainbow. Yes, and someday I will find her on a parkway, blue blinder. On a parkway, blue blinder. Someday I will find her. Yes, and someday I will find her on a parkway, blue blinder. On a parkway, blue blinder. On a parkway. On a parkway, on an autumn day. Yes, and leaves fall like confetti in a New York parade. On the parkway, on an autumn day. Yes, and leaves fall